We want to welcome you to a program on spirituality and art led by Michal Lewon, who is a chaplain at the University of Chicago and a doctoral candidate at Global Ministries University. Welcome, everybody, and I'm going to turn it over to Michal now for his presentation.
Yeah, welcome, and it's my honor to give this presentation. And I'm looking at this presentation as just a beginning of conversation on art and spirituality. And I'm going to mainly focus on the art of Marc Chagall, and I will use some of the thoughts of Rudolf Steiner. So it's mainly on Marc Chagall and some of the thoughts about art from Rudolf Steiner. Two gentlemen, Marc Chagall first, 1887 to 1985, and Rudolf Steiner from 1861 to 1925. So they lived together. I don't think they knew about each other. Maybe they've heard about each other. So that question is not known to me. One of the statements that Marc Chagall said is, "My art is the land of my soul." And he created this picture in 1980 called The Soul of Circus. And I'm just going to point out a couple of things in this picture because it can help us to understand Marc Chagall a bit better. The soul of circus. So when we hear circus, we hear about the circus that sometimes, what comes to my mind is a circus that sometimes comes to a town where people go and see animals, and they see how people are interacting with each other, and they see acrobats, and they see people jumping. And but here it's a little bit different. Yes, we have animals, we have people jumping, and here and there we have some flowers or that are given to the artist, perhaps. We have some sun. The colors are a little bit simple. People are sitting behind, and it does look like a circus. But for Marc Chagall, what he's interested in is to go beyond the circus image, to go beyond what is visible, to create an image that can help us to look at it and to ask ourselves the question, what is the circus of my own life? How am I jumping in my own life? How am I, how the animals and the world of otherness is being expressed or experienced in my own life? The paintings of Marc Chagall are not describing like a realism, but they are very heavily influenced by surrealism. And later on, I will talk about that as well. But before we go any farther, in the quote, I mentioned the soul. And since Marc Chagall was Jewish, let's just look at the concept of soul in Judaism. And I took this quote from Chabad website because I believe it kind of summarizes well. As previously stated, Rabbi Schneur Zellman explains in the Tanya, one of the commentaries on the Torah, that every Jew, we can say every person, is a composite of two distinct souls. The first soul is Nafesh Habachamit, which animates the body. The soul is complete with through structure of soul power ranging from pleasure and will to intellect and emotions. Common to all the soul powers of the Nefesh HaBehamit is that they all wish to fill the base needs, passions, and desires of the body. Essentially, the Nefesh HaBehamit is self-centered. From its stems, the negative character traits such as anger, apathy, and arrogance. The second soul is Nefesh Elokit, kind of sounds like Elohim, God. The soul is described by Job as a part of God and exists before it descends into the body and after the ascent from the body. The Nefesh Elokit in itself is not in need of rectification, rather it descends into this world is to refine the basiness of the animalistic nature of this material world. Before it descends to the world, the Nefesh Elokit is taken on a heavenly tour. It is shown, and here we can believe in this or not, but it is an image. It is shown the various departments of the Garden of Eden, and it is also shown hell, Gehonim. It is made clear to the soul that it is embarking on a perilous journey full of distractions and antecedents. The soul is made to take an oath that she will remain righteous, and even persuaded by those around her that she is perfect, she would always deem herself in need of improvement. The soul is provided with all the spiritual sustenance that it will require on its journey and is satiated with enough spiritual energy required to transform the Nefesh HaBehamit and its portion in the world. So two distinct understanding of soul. One that is more like a spirit, if we would use the language of Rudolf of Christianity, and the other one is more like soul, or for Rudolf Steiner, actually it's the other way. But let me just go with another quote before I talk about Rudolf Steiner. And this quote comes from Hans Urs von Balthasar, The Glory of the Lord, a Theological Aesthetics. And the quote goes like this: "We no longer dare to believe in beauty, and we make of it a mere appearance in order the more easily to dispose of it." Let me start again. We no longer dare to believe in beauty, and we make of it a mere appearance in order the more easily to dispose of it. Our situation today shows that beauty demands for itself at least as much courage and decision as do truth and goodness. And she will not allow herself to be separated and be banned from her two sisters without taking them along with herself in an act of mysterious vengeance. Courage. Hans Urs von Balthasar brings for us the three together. He's emphasizing perhaps the classical metaphysical education here. The beauty, good, and truth coming together. And I would like us to keep that concept in our mind when we are going to look at some of the arts of Marc Chagall. Now, when I think about the truth, goodness, and beauty. This image of one of the paintings of Marc Chagall called The Sacrifice of Isaac came to my mind. Because here he is trying to emphasize, I believe, the three: the goodness, the beauty, and the truth. Yes, one can say there is some aspect of ugliness too, because we are talking about death, trying to the death of Isaac. But here we have the Golgotha. We have kind of the Jewish and the Christian symbolism of sacrifice coming together. And it's not always beautiful. Sacrifice is not always beautiful. We have some blood over here. But metaphysically, even what we would call ugliness or something that is difficult to accept or to look at, it's still beautiful, but maybe it's lacking a total beauty, but it's still beautiful in itself. It still has truth and goodness. The truth is that these two symbols have influenced people for ages, and they shaped the way how they understand themselves and how they interact with one another. And the goodness is that these two images have transformed people into better people who are able to be more sacrificial in their own lives. But also, I hope that these two images help people to embrace that sometimes in the way how we are creating art and in the way how we are living our own life, which is art in itself, that we will be able to embrace that difficulty for the sake of something greater than ourselves. And I know I'm becoming a little bit preachy over here, but art is there to help us to go beyond ourselves and to challenge sometimes our own way of thinking, living. So let's just talk a little bit about truth, beauty, and goodness. And I'm going to use Rudolf Steiner to help us to understand those concepts. Because Rudolf Steiner is trying to, in my opinion, use some of the things that the Jewish people believe about the soul and put it in the words that we might be able to accept or understand it. So I'm quoting from his book, Art as Spiritual Activity, Chapter 9, Truth, Beauty, and Goodness. We might say that, and I quote, we might say that through enthusiasm for truth and truthfulness, human beings develop in the depths of the unconscious at least some feeling for pre-earthly existence. An age in which no such feeling exists also has no real sense of truth and truthfulness. So the truth exists before anything else. It also fits into the metaphysical concept of truth as well. Beauty. Beauty gives us back into joy in place of the sadness that always assails us when we develop great enthusiasm for truth and truthfulness. In an intimate and subtle way, this enthusiasm is always telling us that truth is only to be found in our pre-earthly existence. that we have only an echo of it here on earth. So again, the relationship between the truth and the beauty. So we look at the truth, and when we look at the truth, can we see beauty in it? It's almost like in this picture of the sacrifice of Isaac. There is, or the sacrifice on Golgotha, there is truth in it, and there is beauty in it. We only have to make a choice to see these two things walking together as sisters. But how can we develop a real force that can lead us directly into the world of spirit that we left simply through becoming human beings who have descended from pre-earthly existence into life on earth? So acknowledging that we were, we are, and we will be. And here is the question that he gives us. And I quote again: we develop this force when we fill ourselves with goodness, with the goodness that makes us consider the other person first, the goodness that makes us want to go beyond knowing only about ourselves, being interested only in ourselves, and feeling only what goes on within us. The goodness that enables us to enter with our own souls into the entirely individual and unique being and experience of another person. So for him, the goodness has to be relational, and it has to be connected with the other and with our willingness to go beyond ourselves and connect with the other person in the way that we almost like identify ourselves with the other without losing one's own individuality. And beauty provides the image of a link to the spiritual world we left for the sake of earthly existence. And we reunite ourselves and our earthly life with our pre-earthly existence by being good human beings. Good human beings are those who are able to enter with their own soul into the soul of another. So what I'm hearing Steiner saying here is that we start with goodness, truth, and beauty because it exists before us, but also our whole life here on this earth is in some way yearning for that goodness, truth, and beauty. And only when we are able to yearn for that goodness, truth, and beauty, we are able to fully live our own life. And I feel like art is helping us to experience that in a way that is very unique. And this is another painting by Chagall, Still Live with Flowers. And I like this picture because I can see two people hugging each other, being in relationship with each other. I can see this, those flowers and some fruit on the side. There's a lot of blue color, which symbolizes that this event with flowers and hugging with each other, and the moon takes place at night. And there are a lot of paintings by Chagall that have a lot of blue color and take place at night, because it is during the night that For Chagall, we are the ones who are dreamers or becoming dreamers. We dream. And yes, we can have bad dreams or good dreams. But here, what Chagall is telling us, that emphasizing in so many of his arts, the dreaminess, the dreaming, the night, is that when we dream, we lose kind of control over oneself. And in losing control over oneself, we are entering into the other world, which is our world, into our subconscious. And in our subconscious, we are participating in something that nourishes us, something that changes us, something that we not always have control over, but influences us in a way that when we wake up, they make us feel in a certain way. The dreams. We can wake up and feel energetic and inspired, or we can wake up and feel scared. Still live with flowers, truth, goodness, and beauty, subconscious, soul, imagination. And in the midst of that, there is God. One more thing before I go more deeply into paintings and life of Marc Chagall. The one style of art that had profound influence on Marc Chagall was surrealism. And it is an art and cultural movement that developed in Europe in the aftermath of World War I, in which artists aimed to follow the unconscious mind to express itself, often resulting in the depiction of illogical and dream-like scenes and ideas. Its intention was, according to leader André Breton, to resolve the previously contradictory conditions of dream and reality into an absolute reality or super reality or surreality. It produced works of painting, writing, theater, filmmaking, photography, and other media as well. Here we will just focus on paintings and stained glass windows later. So Marc Chagall. I mentioned already that Marc Chagall was Jewish. He was born as Moshe Chagall in 1887 in a Jewish family in Lyazna, which is near Vitebsk, present Belarus. At that time, it was Russian Empire. It was a pretty large shtetl, city, a town of 66,000 people, and half of them were Jewish. And that's one of the images of marketplace that he painted, of Vitebsk. And the painting was painted in 1917. And just pointing a couple things. It's interesting that he uses white colors for both the church and the synagogue. We know that it's taking place, the vision takes place, the image takes place during colder months, because we can see people wearing some coats. Looks like this is the beginning of the day. We have some shadows here and there, not too many people. We have some stores that are opening, others are still closed. So it's kind of like early mornings are the times when we leave our dreamery worlds of imagination and entering into their reality. And that's how I look at this picture, like leaving the night and entering the day. And the picture, comparing to his other pictures, is pretty realistic, even though it's not there yet, or it shouldn't be there. So, couple dates. Chagall had to travel a lot. He lived in the times of upheaval. World War I, Russian Revolution, World War II. He had to travel a lot. Moving back and forth between Russia and France, Russia, France, the United States. He had to leave. He left France for the United States in 1941 during the war. He came a few years later in 1948, and then he lived there for the rest of his life. This is the home where he was born. Kind of looks like one of those homes from his picture, the marketplace. And his home was very interesting because it was a Jewish Hasidic home. Most of what is known about Chagall's early life has come from his autobiography, My Life. In it, he described the major influence that the culture of Hasidic Judaism had on his life as an artist. He was always Jewish. He never left that spirit of Jewishness. Chagall related how he realized that the Jewish traditions in which he had grown up were fast disappearing and that he needed to document them. From the 1730s, Vitebsk itself had been a center of that culture, with its teachings derived from the Kabbalah. Chagall scholar Susan Pemberkin Goodman describes the links and sources of his art to his early home. And that's the image of one of the paintings from 1925, the Passover Seder. And I can only imagine that this is how he was experiencing Passover in his own home with his parents, with his siblings. And the one thing that it's for me interesting as a dog person, that there is a little small dog over there, which is not the most typical thing for the Jewish families at that time, but there is one. Is it a dream or reality? That I do not know. But that's the quotes about from the historian. Chagall's art can be understood as the response to a situation that has long marked the history of Russian Jews. Though they were cultural innovators who made important contributions to the broader society, Jews were considered outsiders in a frequently hostile society. Chagall himself was born of a family steeped in religious life. His parents were observant Hasidic Jews who found spiritual satisfaction in a life defined by their faith and organized by prayer. His father went to shul, to the synagogue every single day, and Chagall quite often remarked how important it was for him to see his father praying and putting the prayer shawl and singing and diving, moving with his whole body, worshiping God. His father worked in fish market. His mother was a person who, I'm not sure if she owned a grocery store or she worked in grocery store, that I am not aware of, but she did work in grocery store. And this is one of his images of the Sabbath room. And just to point a couple of things. Looks like they are done with the dinner, probably done with the prayers. Some people are sleeping. Another image of, like the image of the marketplace in Vitebsk was the beginning of the day. Here is the end of the day. Children are going to sleep. They are in bed. We have two candles still lit, and the big candle is lit as well. An older person, father or grandfather, is sitting and looks like he has a prayer book. Perhaps the mother of the house is cleaning and getting things ready. Some kids are sleeping on the table, but it's a very peaceful image and very joyful image of people being together, that connectedness. So turning point of his artistic life came when he first noticed a fellow student drawing. Bel Teshuva writes that for the young Chagall, watching someone draw was like a vision, revelation in black and white. Chagall would later say that there was no art of any kind in his family's home, and that concept was totally alien to him. When Chagall asked the schoolmate how to learn to draw, his friend replied, "Go and find a book in the library, idiot. Choose any picture you like and just copy it." He soon began copying images from books and found the experience so rewarding, he then decided he wanted to become an artist. So it's not something that he learned at home. It's something that he observed outside of the home. Coming from a Hasidic family, the art, the way how, if I may say, Westerners or non-Jews would have different pictures and images on their walls, the Hasidic home at that time did not have that. This was against the mitzvot, the commandments. It was against creating images of God and images of people, and in some cases, depends on the Hasidic family, images of the world created by God. We can observe, but we cannot recreate. And painting was recreating it. Self-portrait. So it's a typical surrealistic example. Here we can see him describing himself as an artist, kind of in a very grotesque way. The one thing that I would like to point into is this small image. It's almost like Chagall is having a vision. We can see some clouds. We can see, looks like a building. We can see things taking place over there. It's still night. Here, I believe, is a person with a horse or a bull or a cow, but I'm not exactly 100% sure. It looks to me that he's just taking that little piece and he's painting it. But I like how things are grotesque in his face and in his clothing. Here, I believe, is the Alpha Tower. Alpha Tower, Alpha, I think it's called, in Paris, Alpha Tower. Goodman, one of the historians of art, notes that during that period in Imperial Russia, Jews had two ways to join the art world. One was to hide or deny one's Jewish roots. The other, the one that Chagall chose, was to cherish and publicly express one's Jewish roots by integrating them into art. For Chagall, that was also his means of self-assertion and an expression of principle. Chagall biographer Franz Mayer explains that with the connection between his art and early life, the Hasidic spirit is still the basis and source of nourishment for his art. And here a very famous picture of a rabbi with Torah that he painted in 1930. Again, looks like Vitebsk, his town. There is a winter, there are wooden homes, a horse with a person, a rabbi with a prayer shawl and the Torah and the tefillin, I believe they are called, that an Orthodox Jew would use at the time of prayer, especially in the morning. So again, looks like it's that moment between the day and the night, between dreams and reality depicted in this image. Another image is Christ in the Night, 1948. Chagall was criticized quite often by his own people for not only going beyond what a good Hasidic boy should do, but by inviting non-Jewish images into one's own artistic work. But for him, art had to go beyond one's own religion. Art was a universal language. But even here with that crucified Christ, he is emphasizing the Jewishness of Christ by putting around his waist an image of a prayer shawl. Colors are very interesting. Again, it's the night, so a lot of blue. We see some animals, but also we see green. And even though it's a depiction of death, green connects us with life, the newness of life. Connects us with spring, summer. We see some homes over here, a lamp. For Marc Chagall, especially after the war, Second World War II, or I should say World War II, the image of Christ was the image of the sacrifice that the Jewish people experienced during Holocaust. He was kind of artistically and spiritually able to connect these two together, which is not very typical for the Jewish people. But again, the universal language, that he believed in. Art is a universal language, and it is a language of a soul. It is a spiritual language. Moving from the Christ at night to the typical goat of the village and the village from 1966, very surrealism. People, animals, again, a church, people going to work, probably farmers, leaving a small shtetl and going to work on the field. We can see the night kind of breaking. Here it's more dark than here. But also it's interesting for me that the image of a woman milking a cow is somehow in the head of a cow. Is cow dreaming that soon, early in the morning, someone would come and milk her and release her from having all of that milk? Chagall is teaching me that even animals dream. And again, it's that relationship between people and the animals, people and nature, between people and people. Chagall saw the Old Testament as a human story. So not so much divine, but as a human story. Not with the creation of the cosmos, but with the creation of man. And his figures of angels are rhythmed or combined with human ones. Writes Walschlager. She points out that in one of his early Bible images, Abraham and the three angels, the angels sit and chat over a glass of wine as if they have just dropped by for dinner. And this is not a picture of Abraham, so I'm not connecting what I just read with this image. It's a picture of a burning bush from 1966. In the 1960s, a lot of paintings of Marc Chagall were connected with different images of stories from the Hebrew Bible. And again, we see a sun, we see a burning bush, we see Moses, the angels. I might be by now reading too much into his art, which I have to be careful not to do. But again, I kind of imagine this being early in the morning. Moses spending the whole night and praying and asking God for inspiration. And then when the sun is coming out, it touches the bush in the way that the bush is full of flame and Moses is seeing a vision. The last portion, I think, that I'm going to talk about is the American windows here in Chicago, which was my inspiration why I decided to talk about art and spirituality in Marc Chagall's work. So Marc Chagall visited Chicago in the early 1970s to install his mural, The Four Seasons, and at that time was inspired to create a set of stained glass windows for the Art Institute of Chicago. After discussions with the Art Institute and further reflection, Chagall made the windows a tribute to the American bicentennial, and in particular, the commitment of the United States. to cultural and religious freedom. And these are the stained glass windows. And I spent like a good amount of time looking at those windows in Art Institute. So if anyone who listens to this talk or watches this talk is in Chicago, I would strongly invite to go to the Art Institute and to look at those windows because they are profound. Again, a lot of blue, basic colors, blue, green, red, yellow, events taking place at night. We have a city. I'm going to bring these pictures closer. But here, the second one, I will go back to the first one soon. But we can see the city. We can see angels and sun coming out. And the day is breaking. And a little bit of light coming here. The combination of day and night, from night to day, the movement. Here we can see more the angel singing and announcing the breaking of the day. This looks a little bit like the Torah, the one that Rabbi was carrying in his picture of a rabbi from Vitebsk. We can see the light coming. You can see a little bit of green and orange, but it's still a little bit of white coming from this side of the picture as well. Announcement of the day. People going to work, beginning of the day. And here, I don't know, I'm going back to that picture with the circus, the one that I started with. And I'm ending with the circus again. Children just having fun, enjoying their time at the end of the day, moving from day into night. The candles being lit, the city is going to sleep. This kind of looks to me like an artist trying to paint something or put a mask on one's own face so that the vision of the world can look a little bit differently, be more mysterious. Art and spirituality, the beauty, goodness, and truth coming together. I hope that with this talk, I was able to inspire some of you to look at art like a moment of entering into the world, which is the world of our great imagination. But imagination coming from our subconsciousness, that imagination that we have when we are sleeping and dreaming. And it is so important for Chagall, but I think also for us. Whenever we are dreaming, to look at those dreams and to ask ourselves, how are they teaching us about our own life here now? How are they beautiful and good and true? How are they taking us beyond ourselves? How are they helping us to go with in our own lives and in our own imagination and to accept that, yes, on earth we experience limitations, but the art and the dreams are teaching us that there is a world without any limitations. And spirituality is one of the sciences, one of the aspects of our life that are breaking into our limited reality and helping us to experience unlimited reality. And art can express that in a visual way. Thank you for your time, and I hope that it was a productive time for all of us, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you very much, Michael. This was a terrific presentation. Rita, do you want to make a comment?
Well, it brought me into another world. By that, I mean my experience. You affected my experience of what I was looking at. You brought me more deeply into what I was looking at. And so it was a marvelous experience. It was like leaving my world and entering another world, the world of Chagall, as you saw it. It was a marvelous experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tom, do you have any comments?
Yeah, the Christ in the Night, your explanation of that and description and insights just totally blew me away. Connecting, the Holocaust with the crucifixion. It's just amazing. I'm beyond words.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I had a similar experience. Just the whole approach you did, the imagination and taking us into the world of Chagall and into the world of the imagination, and how it just opens up a whole new portal of spirituality. So thank you very much, Michael. You did a great job. I'm glad we had to do a retake because it actually kind of even opened it more for me. And I'm sure many people who watch this will have the same experience. So I'm going to close the video right now. Rita, help me close the video where it says right here, right there, right there.